Hello everyone, I am Inrayanti and my colleague Nida Olvia here at the 544 International Conference on Humanities, Social Science and Business Management. Welcome to my presentation entitled Implementing AKHLAK Culture of State-Owned Enterprises in Indonesia, the Role of Authentic Leadership and Distributive Justice Climate, funded by the Research Directorate of Gadjah Mada University through the 2022 RTA grant. As an introduction, I would like to convey that the context of our study is in Indonesian state-owned enterprises as a public body that acts as a development agent to support government programs in realizing independence, prosperity, sustainability, and equity, as well as providing added economic value in promoting national development. Currently, state-owned enterprises are transforming not only in business but also in cultural transformation in order to maintain their reputation and good name. Organizational culture is the basic assumption and beliefs held by the organization. In addition, according to Sen, organizational culture is a pattern of fundamental values and beliefs that a group learns and adopts to solve problems and produce behavioral norms. The Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises, as the person in charge of state-owned enterprises in Indonesia, has established core values in corporate culture that must be applied as guidelines for state-owned enterprises management to work well for the benefit of the nations and make the transformation of state-owned enterprises successful.
Based on the circular letter of the Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises in 2020 concerning the core values of state-owned enterprises human resources, the Ministry instructs to all state-owned enterprises in Indonesia to implement these core values, namely trustworthy, competent, harmonious, loyal, adaptive, and collaborative, abbreviated as AKHLAK. They are obliged to apply the AKHLAK culture in the sense of easily to transfer of talent among them because it has similar roots. Furthermore, Thohir and Agustian stated that AKHLAK is the primary key to getting a reputation in all fields. Implementing good AKHLAK will be a driving factor for good corporate actions, leading to a good reputation and ultimately supporting the company's sustainability and competitiveness. So, what factors are for implementing state-owned enterprise culture? One of the supporting factors for the implementation of the AKHLAK culture is the role of the leader. Leader can influence the behavioral norms that apply to organizational members and shape the culture. In this study, authentic leadership is needed to implement AKHLAK culture in state-owned enterprises. Why was authentic leadership? Lately, the leadership style in the Indonesian government is characterized by a leadership style that is indicated or identified as authentic leadership. For example, the president, the governor at the government level, and also the directors at the corporate level. Authentic leaders lead with purpose, meaning, and value. Walumba et al. In 2008 described authentic leadership as a pattern of leadership behavior to create psychological capacity and a positive ethical climate in the work environment with 4 indicators, including developing self-awareness, building an internalized moral perspective, balancing information processing, and being transparent in the relationship between leaders and subordinates. Furthermore, the research assumed that the role of authentic leadership on the perception of the implication of AKHLAK culture can be strengthened by a climate of organizational justice. The higher the organizational justice, the stronger the relationship between authentic leadership and implementing an AKHLAK culture. It is in line with Colquitt et al. 2001, which stated that employees will work well when they are treated well in the organization. Their perception of fair treatment from the organization becomes essential for employees, which will ultimately have an impact on the functioning of the organization and employee welfare. This study focuses on distributive justice that defined as the perception of fairness related to the distribution of outcomes such as salaries, promotion, and rewards. This meaning of distributive justice at the individual level depends on what is seen at the group level. Individual reaction to some situation depends on the perception of justice from others. Therefore, this study analyzes the distributive justice climate at the group level following Noonan and Bennett 2000, who stated that climate justice is awareness at the group level about how groups are treated.
Based on the explanation above, it could be summarized as follows. An authentic leader would affect the implementation of AKHLAK culture, then it will create a high sense of mutual trust and transparency in employees so that employees will carry out what is ordered by the leader, including implementing organizational culture in their work behavior. Moreover, a distributive justice climate would strengthen the presence of authentic leadership to increase trust and commitment, strengthen interpersonal relationships, and build loyalty. Those are the concept of akhlak culture that exists in the company today. Thus, the researcher wants to see the role of distributive justice as a moderator in the relationship of authentic leadership to the dimensions of akhlak culture.
Participants in this study were employees of one of the state-owned enterprises, totaling 272 employees. The analysis was carried out at the group level with 17 eligible groups included, bringing the total participants to the 153 employees.
The measurement process is carried out using three psychological scales: authentic leadership questionnaire, distributive justice scale, and the akhlak culture scale.
Data was analyzed using structural equation modeling based on components or variants. Data processing uses partial least square to evaluate the measurement model or the model first and then conducting the structural model inner model. Data was collected individual and then aggregated into group level by using the average value from the low level to a higher level. As a justification for aggregation at the individual to group level, we conducted within group iterator agreement for each aggregate variable. All the variables in the study has within group iterator agreement cutoff 0.7.
This is the result of the study. By conducting auto model measurement, we find convergent validity, discriminant validity, and composite reliability tests. The following slide describes the measurement of the auto model to see convergent validity, discriminant validity, and composite reliability tests. Based on the result of convergent validity, all measuring items have met the requirements for testing the outer loading value because there are no items below 0.6. Based on the discriminant validity test, it was found that the confidence interval value was either 2.5% or 97.5% for each item, and the variable dimension was less than 1. So it can be concluded that each construct has no problem in discriminant validity. As for the composite reliability test, it can be seen from the table that all reliability values meet the recommendation above 0.70. In addition, this slide also shows the result of R-square for each endogenous latent variable as the predictive power of the structural models.
After completing the outer model measurement, we continue by conducting inner model measurement. As displayed in this table 1, distributive justice climate has a moderator effect on the relationship between authentic leadership and akhlak culture. The beta value indicates a negative direction, meaning that the group that perceived distributive justice climate is low will strengthen the contribution of authentic leadership to akhlak culture. Table 2 displays each dimensions of akhlak and show that distributive justice climate moderate the relationship between authentic leadership and akhlak culture of trustworthy, harmonious, and collaborative. Meanwhile, for the rest of akhlak culture, distributive justice climate has no moderation effect. In general, the distributive justice climate was proven to act as a moderator in the relationship between authentic leadership and akhlak culture. However, the moderating role is negative. A negative beta values indicates that a low distributive justice climate will strengthen the relationship between authentic leadership and akhlak culture and vice versa. The finding supports Skinner's theoretical conception of negative reinforcement, where Skinner states that the frequency of behavior will increase because the behavior is followed by the loss of aversive stimuli known as negative reinforcement. Thus, to eliminate the unpleasant situation, employees will behave as expected by the company, in this case implementing the akhlak culture. Specifically, we dissect each dimension of akhlak to determine which dimension can be moderated by distributive justice climate. On the one hand, the distributive justice climate significantly moderates the relationship between authentic leadership and the dimension of akhlak culture in negative and positive forms. Negative moderating effect on trustworthy and collaborative indicates the existence of a self-defense mechanism in employees. It assumes that self-defense mechanism affect employees' perception of being mistreated. They tend to show expected behavior such as completing the work they are responsible for, being trustworthy in doing a job, doing what is said, and sticking to morals and ethics whose behavior is in line with the concept of trustworthiness. Also, regarding the collaboration dimension, employees tend to display behavior to be accepted by the group. Thus, employees are increasingly showing open behavior in collaborating, accepting other people's ideas, enjoying working together, providing opportunities for others to contribute, and moving others to achieve common goals whose behavior is in line with the concept. While the positive mediating effects occurs in the harmonious dimension, this supports the application of the concept of social exchange theory in the interaction between employees and the company. It assumes that the harmonious behavior of employees is increasing, such as respecting other people regardless of their background and building a conducive work environments, because healthy social interaction depend on perception of fairness. Thus, the more employees perceive they are being treated fairly, the implementation of the harmonious dimensions will increase. On the other hand, the distributive justice climate does not moderate the relationship between authentic leadership and the dimension of akhlak culture in the form of competent, adaptive, and loyal. The role of authentic leadership in improving competent, adaptive, and loyal behavior as part of the implementation of the akhlak culture does not depend on the provision of salaries and promotions. It is possibly more influenced by individual factors than organizational factors such as distributive justice climate. However, this opinion still requires further research. Regarding the limitation of this study, we recommend that further research can be done by improving the akhlak culture instrument through massive respondent representing any sectors in state-owned enterprises. Reconsidering about the dissemination of online questionnaires using Google Forms, it is limited researcher to make sure the participant understand on how to fill out the questionnaires, and it turns researchers lost many items when analyzing data. Thank you for watching. We are eager to discuss with you. Greater health and success always.